What is up, everybody? So I wanted to make a video that followed up on a post that I had made before, that fear and faith cannot exist in the same space, right? And I truly believe that, right? That like fear and faith don't coexist in the same space, and you can replace fear with faith. However, just throwing that out there only tells a piece to the story, and I don't think takes the seriousness of people's situations sometimes, or the seriousness of their fear into consideration, number one. And number two, it's missing an important part, an application part, right? So you could say that those two things can't exist in the same spot, but shit, I got a ton of that fear, so apparently I can't have faith. See y'all later. But obviously that's not what we want to do, right? Like obviously we want to find some sort of application of like, oh, okay, how do I move from fear into faith? So therefore I can live my life in faith, right? And I was talking with Gary Harper, who's one of my mentors and good friends. And he was talking yesterday with the idea of like, one of the ways that we transition from fear to faith is through knowledge and education. So first, realizing that you're normal. We all have fears. Hell, we all have a lot of the same fears. Fear of making this video, fear of starting a YouTube, fear of starting a company, fear of having a conversation, fear of taking a relationship to the next level. Like there's so many, fear of COVID. There's so many different fears that exist out there. And there's some times where you just have to have blind faith and do a trust fall, right? But there's times where we could step out beyond that, and through the process of education, increasing our knowledge allows us to take a proper risk assessment of like, what is the risk of this? And then be able to make an assessment as to whether you're okay with taking that risk and taking that next step and taking out into faith that I know what the options are out here, but I have faith in believing that I'm going to succeed in where I'm going. For me personally, the next step to that is I have a statement for my life and in my company and for my family. I say, listen, we win or we learn. The only way we lose is if we don't play the game. So for everything, every option, every decision that I make in my life, I'm either going to win there or I'm going to learn something along the way and make me a little bit better tomorrow than I am today. And so I just want to take a second to kind of reach out to everybody, and those fears that you're having, those voices, those lizards that are in your head, talking to you, telling you you can't, telling you you should be scared, you're not unique. They're there for everyone. Every person that you look up to that says like, oh, I wish I could be like that and not have that fear. Like that's the lizard brain telling you a story of negativity that you don't have what it takes just because you're somehow inherently different from somebody else that has something that you don't. The reality is that person probably is just done it scared, has figured it a way to either force himself into blind faith or educate himself or herself on what the real risk is and makes the decision that I'm going to take that risk. You know, there's no risk, no gain. And so mostly I wanted to follow up, like I said, on that idea of, fear and faith. They can't hold the same space. So just live in faith. I think is a great lesson to kind of learn and to have in the back of your head. But also, it's so important to have that practical aspect of a pragmatic response of how the hell am I going to get from, because it's here. How am I going from fear to faith? How am I going to get there? And one of the best things that we could do is to gain some knowledge, to educate ourselves. And we do that through research of data. And we do that through research of people, of peers. Get around people that you want to be like. Find some of those people that are a little bit ahead of where you want to go and talk to them. And they will talk to you. Most of them will be vulnerable and open, because I don't think a lot of success happens without vulnerability and openness. And get inside one of those circles where they could talk about the vulnerability and the fears that they had and the knowledge that they gained along the way, to get them to where you want to be, right? And just focusing yourself on getting yourself to be a better person tomorrow than you are today. That's my big thing. I always want to be growing and improving. It's tough, especially in a social media filled world, to not constantly compare yourself or compare myself. I'll be vulnerable out there. It's tough for me not to compare myself to somebody else, because I'm always never looking at who's behind me. I'm always looking at who's ahead of me, who's better than I am, who's doing more than I am, who's got more than I am, right? It's so easy that's why I actually took a break from social media for a while, because I was telling myself the wrong stories in my head. But what I need to do, what I think people need to do, is look to learn from the people that are ahead of you, but focus on yourself and always making yourself better today than you were yesterday so that you can get that compound effect. And when you get just a little bit better every single day, you look back on last year and you won't even recognize yourself. You'll be damn near embarrassed of who you were a year ago going, whoa, I was like that. And look at where I am today. And it all happens one day, one decision at a time. Hope that reaches somebody.